ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ। ਮੇਰੇ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਗੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਕੋਥੈਰੇਪਿਸਟ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਸਾਡਾ ਫੋਕਸ ਰਹੇਗਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਵਿਸ਼ਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਡਿਕਟਡ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਾਰਨ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਬੜਾ ਵੱਡੀ ਸਮੱਸਿਆ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕਾਲਸ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਸਪਾਊਸਸ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹਸਬੈਂਡ ਦੀ ਜਾਂ ਵਾਈਫ ਦੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ। ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਤਾਂ ਹਸਬੈਂਡਸ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਫੋਨ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ, ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਅੱਗੇ ਦੇਵੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਜਿਸ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨ 'ਚ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਿਕਲ ਸਕੇ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਤੋਂ। ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ। It's a major issue. Addiction is rising at an alarming level. Everybody is concerned. Everybody prays that one should not get entangled in this. But if one gets entangled and one is addicted with something, how can the family come forward and support? So let's start with basically starting from the spouse, because she or he is the most affected at a time when someone gets addicted.
That's a great question, and it's a complex answer. So the first thing around addiction, we have to understand that addiction is a disease. Okay, so it's a disease of the brain. Often when we think about addiction, we think the person is weak, lazy, all of these different things. But if we understand it from a mental health perspective, like a physical health, somebody wouldn't say diabetes is your fault. Somebody wouldn't say cancer is your fault. But with addiction, will say it's your fault. Why can't you just stop drinking? Right? So the first thing for the family to understand is that this is actually a disease and it's treatable. The difference between, well, I guess the same with cancer, diabetes, and addiction is that the person who's sick has to get treatment. Right? The cancer patient can happily say, sorry, I don't want any treatment, and they're going to die. Same with the patient who has addiction. If they're struggling with alcohol addiction, cocaine, any sort of drugs, they themselves have to first admit they have a problem, which is very tough in addiction.
Absolutely.
Very tough. So my topic is about what can the family do? So the first thing that the family can do is start to understand for themselves what is addiction. There's so much information online they can learn about, and one of the best approaches that I've found is seeing the relationship between addiction and trauma. So what does this mean? So trauma is something that has happened in your past, your childhood somewhere, and there's something has happened there that has been not resolved. It's like a pile of garbage in your inner, in your inner self that's just been rotting for years and years and years. And now there's a smell in your life. And you don't know why something is smelling in your life, but it's from the past. And until that person goes and looks at what is this trauma, they're not going to be able to solve it. So what can the family do? They can understand that the addiction is not their fault, not the family member's fault, not the person's fault, and not the family member's fault. They can start to learn about what is addiction, and they can make a commitment to, it's going to sound awful, but the commitment is to help. Now, how do you help? There's two ways of helping. One is helping in the same house, one is helping from a distance. You have to look after your safety. If you're being abused, if you're being harmed, then of course you have to take space and help from a distance. But it doesn't mean that because, say for example, it's a husband and wife, say the husband has alcohol problem, the wife decides to leave, but she shouldn't close her heart completely because this person is sick. Right? This person, and if we start to think of it that way, that this person is actually sick, they have an illness, then it changes the way we relate to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because your perspective changes, and then you are not in that blame game, position where you're just blaming that this person is doing this, and it's because of him or her that everything is happening.
That they've destroyed the family.
Absolutely. But on the other hand, let's start with the person first that who is affected by this addiction. It's very difficult to accept because your mind is not at the level, and as you said, he or she is ill. It's a mental illness, so they are not being able to understand or grasp the position where they are in. So a person, how can the family kind of put into their mind or try to make them realize that what you're doing is something which is going to be detrimental to your interest? Of course, the family is suffering, that's a separate aspect, but it's more you who is going to suffer.
Well, the research on addictions is very different. What we're finding is very different now than what we thought 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Traditionally you have that image in the West that the whole family sits down and they say, look, if you don't stop, we're going to cut you off. And what we're finding is that isolating someone is actually really, really bad for people who have addiction. Because, so there's an experiment I want to tell you about. They did this experiment with rats, and they found that when they put a rat in a cage and they gave it 2 bottles of water, one with just water and one with cocaine, the rat would always go to the cocaine bottle until it died. It would kill itself, but it would drink the cocaine. Then so all of our addiction work has been based on that experiment that was done in the 70s. But then we realized, wait a minute, as scientists came and said, what if this is not like real life? In real life, it's not just you sitting alone in your house. You have family, you have other things, you have a job.
Yeah.
So they made a thing called Rat Park. So there was balls to play with, there was other rats in the park, there was food to eat, there was all these different things, and the cocaine bottle and the water bottle. What was amazing to the researchers that in Rat Park, the rats did not go for the cocaine bottle. They maybe once tried it, but they never went back. They weren't like that other rat just going. So addiction is filling a hole in people. They feel disconnected, they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they have the trauma, and so they go to the substance.
Right.
But if we surround them with love, if we surround them with acceptance and caring, eventually they will start to see that, hey, I don't need this thing. And this is very, very different. It's only in the last 10 years that we've been starting to talk about addiction in this way.
Right.
So for families, that's why I say you commit to helping, which means to love the person, whether they're drunk, whether they're sober, whether they're high, whether they're sober, we're loving them, we're connecting with them, we're saying, you're still my brother, you're still my father, you're still my daughter, even though this is happening, how can we help you? What we can do is create conditions where it's safer for them, where it's more comfortable for them to open their own eyes and see what's going on. That could take years.
So instead of feeling dejected, you say that keep on trying, keep on creating that environment where maybe one day that person comes into that fold and takes it.
But you also have limits, right? So say, for example, if you have a family member who has a drug addiction, right? And you know that now they're stealing and now they're doing this and they're doing all these other things for money for the drugs. So you might decide, okay, I know that he has an illness, addiction, but I'm not going to give him any money because I know where the money is going and I don't feel comfortable with giving him money.
Right.
Then that's what we call that a boundary. You should have boundaries. Boundaries are good, right? But you don't have a boundary on love. Love should be there no matter what the person is doing, no matter how they're struggling. Yeah.
Right. But to create that unconditional love, again, it's a long task, and you require a lot of patience, you require a lot of determination and the willingness that, yes, my thought will prevail one day or the other, and you should keep on continuing.
And my final thought on this is that I always work in families, I always work with the person who's the most willing to change.
Right.
So if a person who has addiction is not willing, we'll work with someone else, the sister, the mother, the father, anybody else in the family. See, if you think of a family system is like this. Everybody's moving like this together, right? If one person starts to change, now suddenly the family is moving in a completely different way. So it only takes one person. It doesn't have to be the person suffering.
Right.
Somebody else can change, and suddenly the whole dynamic shifts in the family. It's almost like magic. I can't quite explain.
Really interesting. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for coming away.
Thank you.
आज जो ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਐਡਿਕਟਡ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਰੋਲ ਨਿਭਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਐਜ਼ ਅ ਡਿਜ਼ੀਜ਼ ਟ੍ਰੀਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੈਂਸਰ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਡਾਇਬੀਟੀਜ਼ ਹੈ, ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਪੂਰਾ ਵਾਹ ਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪੂਰੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰਨੇ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਠੀਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ। ਸਿਮਿਲਰਲੀ ਉਹ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਐਡਿਕਸ਼ਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਉਸ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਐਸੀ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਸੋਚ, ਐਸਾ ਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਟੈਂਪਰਾਮੈਂਟ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਪਏਗਾ। ਅਨਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨਲ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਮੁਹੱਬਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਗਿਲਟੀ ਨਾ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਜਾਏ, ਬਲਕਿ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਟ੍ਰੀਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਲੰਘ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਉਹ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਆਪ ਨਾ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋਵੇ ਤਦ ਤੱਕ ਕੁਝ ਸੰਭਵ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨਸ ਐਸੀ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਰਸ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸਾ এনवायरमेंट ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਵੀ ਕਵੇ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਖਾਣਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਬਰਦਸਤੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਖਵਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਕੰਡੀਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੀ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਰੋਲ ਹੈ। ਜੇਕਰ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਪਰਸਪੈਕਟਿਵ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰ ਲੈਣ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਠੀਕ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵੀ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਾਇਰਾ ਇੱਕ ਸਾਈਕੋਥੈਰੇਪਿਸਟ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਐਸੇ ਪੇਸ਼ੈਂਟਸ ਨਾਲ ਡੀਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੋਵੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ।